Hello there, welcome to the Comments Collaborative Project Espresso Global and Ukrainian Media. I'm Elena Solodovnikova, and it's a great pleasure for me to welcome Vaidas Augunas, a Lithuanian political scientist. Hello, Vaidas.
Hello, Elena.
Thank you for joining us. Let's proceed to our topic. First of all, I wanted to talk about the war, unfortunately. Ukrainian military experts believe that a Russian attack on the Baltic states is unavoidable. What is the Lithuanian attitude to this threat, and when can it be realized? How will Russian troops act, and how will Lithuania react?
Well, unfortunately, most probably we cannot tell how the Russian troops will act. It's basically one person decides there, and we don't know what's on his mind. Definitely, there is a threat. We feel it. We prepare to a certain make some certain steps to prepare to the possible invasion. However, we don't know the time, and we don't know will this guy have enough time to start what he's thinking of. So basically, at this moment, that you must probably know, the political parties have signed in Lithuania the agreement of 3% spending 3% of GDP on defense issues. So basically, at the moment, there is an initiative that the state has to spend 4% of GDP, which is basically initiated by the group of progressive companies, and being at the moment signed by 53,000 people, which is quite a lot in Lithuania, because just to remind, Lithuanian population is 2.8 million, so it's quite a substantial number, and it's growing. This initiative most probably is going to take place. However, the discussion is from which sources these money are going to come. There are different visions. Some people think that it should be some 1 or 2% of VAT added to the defense issues. The other people would like to tax the benefits of the turnover of the companies, of the commercial enterprises, by some certain 1 or 5%, whatever. The others think that the bank tax, which we had for the last 3 years, that was going to the defense issues, could be returned, because it was a fixed time for 3 years, which basically already ended this year. So maybe this one is going to be revived, or tax the people, or whatever. So, however, the decision is going to take place, but that most probably this 4% is going to happen. The other one is that it is quite a lot of people just sending the money, the same like people in Ukraine, as they are supporting military forces. Basically, there is a foundation that basically receives the money from the people who would like to give their own accounts to defense of their country. So that's basically well, I mean, a lot of people send the money to Ukraine, but there are some who are thinking about their own defense as well. So there are like a bunch of different initiatives. Well, of course, I don't know, have you heard of that or not? We have the agreement with German company signed for buying Leopard tanks, which are coming at some point. Also, some other anti-aircraft. The new Minister of Defense, Laurynas Kasčiūnas, who has just stepped into the office a few months ago, he is basically the big fan of anti-aircraft and drone weaponry. So he is at the moment working very hard on that, and he also is the guy who is trying to put up what we call commandanturos. It's a kind of in every district you would have some kind of small headquarters that would direct the people where they are going to well, I mean, which companies or what people are going to do what in the case of invasion in every district. So basically the planning is ongoing. We don't know when it's going to take place, but hopefully we are ready for it.
Yes, and the Lithuanian president supported Poland's idea to deploy NATO nuclear weapon in Poland. What do you think? How much can this move help protect or push Kremlin to acting faster?
Well, I'm not sure that Kremlin at the moment can react the way they would like to. Definitely, they cannot afford the direct confrontation with NATO at this moment. The only strong side they have is most probably is nuclear weaponry, which is a kind of one-time use. So if you look at this more general military line, I would say that it's impossible. I think that the weaponry, nuclear weaponry, is basically would be a strong sign that Poland cannot be attacked, and at the same point, it's a good news also for the Baltics and for the Ukraine, as well. Basically, if that is happening, so for them it's quite a good news, because you cannot basically threat the nuclear state wherever. The Poland, of course, will not be most probably reliable for launching the nuclear attack. However, they, well, I would just say, well, I mean, in case of threat and in case of the commitment of United States of America, will keep up. So most probably the Russia would not dare to attack either them or somebody from NATO. However, at this point also we have to put a small remark. It's everything depends on the political decisions, and these nuclear rockets, they basically will belong to the United States of America or to other country, and the political establishment there, the political leadership will decide wherever to use them or not. So here this brings me to the idea that the most important thing is how NATO will continue with this unanimity, with this political will to continue fighting Russia and fighting its allies in the future. Because if you don't have the political will, whatever, in Brussels or DC, so that's basically mean that the rockets are useless. So the most important thing is the political will, and that remains a very important message.
Definitely, that is a strange question, but should we expect a quick response from the European Union and United States in case of invasion, or will they, like in Ukraine, wait for at least a week? Can the country stay alone?
United Nations in general, they are not the organization which gives any response. This is basically a talk forum where all the world leaders or their representatives are talking, and I do not remember really some quick reaction on anything that United Nations ever made during their existence. So I wouldn't expect anything from United Nations or Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. These forums are not for that. European Union, in general, yes, it could do something. However, we should understand that this is so many countries and around one table, and basically the decisions that are going to come, first of all, they will not be military ones, and the second of all, it will not be fast. It will take some time to agree on everybody, especially having in mind that now we are having Hungary, Slovakia, maybe we will have somebody else at this moment. So I mean, this unanimity rule, which is being used in European Union, is a big obstacle for reacting quickly. However, there's sanction side and economic side especially. I'm not big fan of sanctions because in global war it's very hard to control them. And also in democracies, it's very hard to control them as well, because I mean, this is free countries and they do whatever you want. To hunt one business by another, it's a very hard thing. But the economic power, that's a quite important, and you know, these billions that basically being spent by European Union also on the military equipment, and also you know, like just giving, for example, this kind of support or loans, or so they could be very useful for any country that's being under attack.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about the Lukashenko that
my favorite game.
Yes, that is your favorite. Lukashenko constantly complains about military drillings that take place in the border of the Belarus and Lithuania, and what was your reaction on his statement about that you hit by drones Minsk? Lithuanian drones hit Minsk. Why he articulating so ridiculous stuff?
Well, to start with is that we do not consider that Lukashenko or Belarus is a separate state. I mean, they are not they're not independent anymore. So basically, whatever he's saying, except of his strange statements sometimes in the potato fields, he is reading what the Russian special services are preparing for him. I don't know what's the reason behind that. I just also would correct you a little bit. It was not him who was saying that. It was the director of KGB. Tertel, I think his name, and he was the guy who told about this. I mean, he said that for some reason. Okay, so I don't know what's the reason behind that, but it's complete nonsense. I mean, this is obvious. We still have, by the way, operating between Lithuania and Belarus, there is agreement on the exchanging of airspace information, 15 kilometers around the border each side. So I mean, it's still not canceled. So in any case, it's kind of impossible that something like that would happen. The second thing is also strange because, well, I mean, by stating this, you just recognize that your Air Force and anti-aircraft forces are useless, because if you just can fly with you know, drones to Minsk, that's quite sad, I think. So you would have, first thing you would have to do, you would have to fire your chief of defense and at least the leader of the Air Force, the commander of the Air Force. So basically, this is nonsense. I don't know what's the reason is behind that, but again, the script which is being delivered by Lukashenko and his team is not written in Minsk. So there is something more behind that. We will see that, you know, piece by piece, whatever the people in Moscow are working on that. They will show the next steps why it is there. But I mean, the most important thing, the general rule about everything what concerns Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and Eastern Europe in general, what the Moscow is doing, they're trying to put up this uncertainty mood in between of the population. They do that in Ukraine as well, of course, but you must probably more reluctant to listen to what they're doing. I've heard most probably a couple of days ago they were saying about the attack on Sumy, and that's basically also kind of to provoke some kind of panic or the people, you know, running somewhere, just creating the traffic jams, and then all this panic is basically one of the most important tools that the Russians are using. But also it's different. I mean, for example, for Western Europe, they're often using that nuclear strike threat. In some countries, they're using this Russian minorities. In some others, well, at the neighboring Belarus, using the immigrants or the threats of a conventional attack. So I mean, these are the things that basically is supposed to feel us unsafe, to feel. This is my opinion, but as I said, I don't know. Feel us unsafe to to pay more attention to our internal things, to create some kind of tension, and to make sure that we will help less Ukrainians than we could.
Yes, but don't you believe in the possibility of Lukashist military participation in the operation? Not only like a land for operation for Russians to give them the road, but military involvement.
As I said, we consider Belarus is not an independent state. So whatever you might call Belarus army, we consider it's a Russian army. So it doesn't really make a difference what uniforms they're wearing. They wore this green people uniform in Ukraine in 2014, but it didn't make them, green nation people. They were Russians anyway. So basically, the chain of command is subdued to the Russian general staff, and if they really would like to do that, they would give that command, and then the Belarusians will attack, or whatever is that, NATO or Ukraine. However, if you're asking me about their military capacity, so what we see it from here is well, it's not that really kind of a big one. The threat. I mean, the army is basically, the armed forces are weak. It's been basically the consequence of Lukashenko policy over 30 years, which basically based on two things. First of all, the most of resources were going to the Ministry of Interior and to the special forces, what are basically were trained to be used against his own people in the streets. And the second one, the fear of giving away the weapons to the people whom you don't trust. I mean, armed forces of Belarus were never trusted by its leader so much. They never were kind of receiving too much of finances. They were never participating in international operations, and were kind of all the time the sixth child in the family. So this basically means that he's not very much liked, like in the ranks of the military as well. So both sides knowing about that, it could be quite a strange thing if he would give up the weapons to 100,000 people, knowing that most probably, well, 20,000 of them could use that for different ways. So I do not think that that's an interest of Lukashenko. But again, he's not the one who is deciding. So if Russians will decide that, so they're going to send that. But it will not be a big surprise for us.
So Lithuania has left only 2 checkpoints for Belarusian people. Is a diplomatic gesture or is a security measures? And in your opinion, how many spies are in Lithuania now from Belarus, from Russia?
I don't know how spies are the spies, but basically, let's say, okay, so in Lithuania at the moment we have 60,000 Belarusians, right? So most probably 2,000 to 3,000 are the ones that are the political ones, and that basically we have We are absolutely sure that these people are loyal to Lithuanian state and they are fighting the regime. Another most probably 3,000 to 5,000 are the high qualification people that usually working for IT companies and so on and so on. So these most probably are also not a big fans of Belarusian regime. The rest 50,000, what we are thinking might be different people there. Some of them were employed by the state institutions, some were not. And it's quite hard to check such a big amount of the people by our security services, even though from time to time you could see that that one or another were sent out of the country or their permit of living in Lithuania is being cancelled due to security reasons. So I cannot say the number, but definitely there are some. I wouldn't believe that too many, but the other question is, what's the threat they are posing? Well, at the moment, I do not see too much of that. I mean, I know that some people are talking about possibility, some hybrid attacks. Maybe some weapons are being smuggled and hidden. Maybe there are some people that are prepared to take it and to do something. Yeah. I wouldn't exclude that, but for me, it doesn't look very, very likely. What the truck driver can do as a spy, I don't know. Could be. I mean, there's been a guy who just his permit was canceled. He worked for the I think for the window installment company, which is basically, I don't know what's basically is the threat of these people posing. Well, unless to believe that they're waiting and they have the machine gun in their garden hidden and they will attack on the day X. Wouldn't exclude, as I said, but quite pessimistic on that. The crossing points. The crossing points are quite both, I would say. Now, of course, it's a sign that we are not okay. I mean, that we consider Belarus as a part of Russia, and I mean, we do not encourage the people going there. Also, please keep in mind that the Lithuanian citizens, well, in the that are living close to the border, they had this tradition of going there to buy cheap alcohol, cigarettes, and gasoline, and then they were doing that. But now, then they're still doing that, even though they have to wait in queues for 30 hours and still profitable. So these people are kind of also the target for Belarusian special forces and that for Belarusian KGB. So I wouldn't exclude this out of our mind as well. But it's also yes, security. Yes or no? It's more like I would say against how to put it. Well, it's an anti-smuggling thing. Anti-smuggling. Well, basically, last years we had so many of the trucks, so many of the trains even that would smuggle in the huge amounts of cigarettes. First of all, the millions of them, and basically the state was definitely participating in producing them and sending them via the border, and the benefits were going also back to the regime. So I mean, this is one of the things that we are trying to kill, and I think we are quite successful on that. We will see. Maybe the last two ones will be closed at some point as well, as the Finland did, and that basically I would not exclude that. Now, what basically prevents this is most probably, first of all, that the government doesn't want to deprive people who has the relatives in Belarus of its kind of possibilities to to visit the relatives. But the other thing is the transit agreement between the Lithuania and European Union, between Belarus and Kaliningrad, and that's also kind of a tricky issue. I'm not a big expert in this field, but I know that there are some things that that basically going there because of the transit. To sum up, I would say that it could be even more harsh, but I wouldn't see Belarusians in Lithuania as a big threat at this point. I mean, however, we should also have to decide here in Lithuania why we need so many of these kind of that crowd. 50,000 people, as I said. We are truck drivers. We are doing some jobs here, which is basically Uber, Bolt things, and lots of them, like a construction. So my question here is I mean, do we really need them? And if we need these people, why we definitely taking that from that ex-Soviet field? Well, I mean, for Ukrainians who are here, it's well, they have a different law, so it's basically they being equal to a Lithuanian citizen. So there is not a challenge. But when we talk, like, for example, our Department for Migration, they said we will let less Belarusians into Lithuania, and we will replace them with Central Asian guys. So I don't see like why, and I'm not the only one, why we have to take the people from ex-Soviet Union. I mean, why we are not taking them from other different areas of the world? Because by bringing more and more people who are Russian speakers, to basically create these kind of Russian melting pots where they are starting to speak Russian. They are sending the people to the Russian schools. They're following the Russian news, and that basically, I don't like these Russian ghettos at all. They never were good in any of the countries, starting from Ukraine, finishing with Israel. And at one or another point, we have to find that. But that's, again, the political decisions are very important. And so far, I don't see the political appetite for that.
Yes, and by the way, that is well-known fact that the language issue is being used by Russians as a reason for the scandal. And some days ago, Seimas of Lithuania initiated the draft of law for foreigners who walk to Lithuania. They have to know language, Lithuanian language in sufficient level to continue to work. What is the public reaction for this? Who is what's disappointed about that decision?
Well, the general society feelings is that the people who are living in Lithuania for more than a few years, they need to learn Lithuanian. However, at this point, most probably one of the biggest issues that we are facing is the Ukrainian refugees, because well, they also need to do that in general, but we are all the time postponing this decision for them. And if they're doing that for one group of the people, it's very hard to do that, to apply that for Belarusians, for example, and do not apply for Ukrainians, because generally there are quite many people on the right side camp in our political spectrum who are disappointed that in most of the stores, just an example, okay, most of the stores, the Ukrainians who are working there, they have this Ukrainian flag, but they can only offer Russian while communicating with the customers. So what? Well, I know some good examples of the people who came and speak Lithuanian. Lithuanian is not an easy language, that's for sure, and not every Ukrainian would like to leave. Would like to live in Lithuania. So I mean, they're most probably planning to come back. However, under this one, there's people are saying, okay, so why I have to speak Russian with Ukrainian in my country, which is basically really a kind of a strange thing. You have to agree with me. Well, but I mean, on the other side, we have a political will saying that, okay, we have to help Ukrainians as much as we can, right? And I mean, they're here not because they like it, but it's because they have to. And well, as I said, constantly postponing this period, and there's been some elevation of the, for example, well, if you are a teacher, a professor, or doctor, so you have to speak, by the law, you have to speak Lithuanian. But the state levied that and said, okay, you can speak, well, I mean, as long as the qualifications are okay, you can speak Russian with the customers, for example, with a doctor, right? And some municipalities took over that decision. So I mean, it's quite complicated. As I said, the ideal world would mean that we all speak Lithuanian here. Good or bad, that's another thing. But as in English, you know, it's like well, we all speak broken English, whatever. It's basically we think of, and it's different English in every country. So some Lithuanian is a must, and everybody who stays and works here, we have to know that minimum that basically is needed. However, you cannot exclude one part of the society and to make the rules for them, and the other part of the society would have a different rules. So that would be discrimination, and that wouldn't be fair.
About Lithuania, how Russians trying to influence to you media sphere?
Well, it's quite hard for them. I mean, the only thing that basically of course you can find everything on YouTube, on Google, and stuff like that. So this is what we cannot influence. I haven't seen like the big campaigns made by them. Some you could see something on Facebook, on other social media. You could basically see that the Russians at the moment are promoting a few candidates while we're having presidential election next month. So few of them enjoy quite a wide support of Russian trolley on the social media. However, I do not think that there is a kind of too much of influence they have. Meant the Russian TV is being discontinued for like 3 years now, and then basically, well, I mean, the people, if they are willing, they can find that on YouTube and the things like that. But as I said, I haven't observed anything except of the support of some extra, I would say, like the people who are out of the range of the regular political spectrum on the right or on the left. So I mean, these people are basically most probably getting some information from Russia. You could see by what they're saying, because that coincides a lot with Russian political statements, and this is quite funny. Like the last one, one of the candidate to the presidents, Žemaitaitis, he's a member of parliament, just most probably will be kicked off soon because of anti-Semitic statements. So he's now promoting the kind of idea of that let's do not help Ukraine because well, it's the West who are trying to destroy Slavs, fighting each other. And the Poles will be next. So it's good for Lithuania that the Slavs will kill each other. So that's basically more or less what he's saying. So I mean, this is one of the narratives that the Russians are using in some of the societies and in some of the groups, and that's as I'm following that quite close. I could say that. But once again, as I said, I do not see the big campaigns. I see helping some people, and again, the turmoil, and the fear, what they are trying to just boost as much as possible, and of course to compromise the people who are helping Ukraine, who are collecting the money, trying to putting up that they're stealing that money, and that's most probably in most of the countries the same. So I mean, this is what they're working on, but not so much of success by now.
Well, I want to make them back and ask you about that Seimas law, which we conducted about the ban of import of agricultural products from Russia and Belarus into Lithuania. Does your country suffer economically? What are the losers due to this decision? Because I ask you because it's necessary to know that you have done something that the EU is only trying to implement. Why is European diplomatic so clumsy and you are so fast?
Well, you see, this was a political decision, and to be honest, we never imported so many things from Russia, you know. So whatever that you know. Well, except of some oil and gas infrastructure things, you know. So, but in general, it's neither cultural wise. Of course, the big stars would gather around quite a big crowd, nor the kind of the things you're buying in the shop. So that was a political decision. It was a good decision, and the decision not to buy the oil and gas was quite hard at the very beginning. But on the other side, I mean, you must probably know Lithuania have an LNG terminal, which is located in Klaipėda, so we are self-sufficient on gas for a long time already. And the oil we also covered quite okay. So I mean, all these imported things from Russia were not a problem. What the problem is that we still have some businesses who are basically sending some like Lithuanian goods or resending the goods from other countries to Russia. You know, usually we have different channels like via Armenia or Kyrgyzstan or some other states around the ex-Soviet Union. So this is an issue that being bashed sometimes from the international media, because there was some statement, I think, a month or so ago, that the Lithuania and Germany are the biggest providers of some dual usage materials for Russia. So it needs a big human resource to stop it. I'm afraid Lithuania at the moment doesn't pay too much attention on that. We basically overwhelmed with our things. Maybe Ukrainians can help here with pinpointing which companies are violating the sanctions. The other thing, there is one guy who has few factories in Russia, in St. Petersburg, in Kaliningrad. His name is Visvaldas Matijošaitis, and he's a mayor of second largest city in Lithuania, Kaunas. So he owns that company Vici, which is basically sells a lot of sea products, and well, at the beginning he said that he's withdrawing from Russia, but now he is basically stopped saying that, and even participating on the same side as the Russians during the official meetings, for example, with Cuban delegation recently, his people. So basically, and well, at this point, I mean, we cannot do anything about that because he's not like violating any rule. However, being a mayor of the second largest city, and even knowing that the people voted for him, so they showed that that this political, you know, how to say, how to say. The standards of the political guy in Lithuania could be rather low, because the people are just thinking about good streets and you know, quality asphalt and well, nice festivals in the city, and that's quite enough. You don't put so much of standards for the politician on the moral side. So that is basically a problem. That's a problem, and I don't know how to deal with that, because you cannot even impeach him for this. His companies are paying the taxes in Russian Federation. The taxes are being used for financing the war against Ukraine and possibly against us in the future. But what do we see here is that we don't have really the tools except of a moral statements, but the moral statements are not working for the people like him. So this is an issue that we haven't solved yet, and I don't know how to do that.
Yes, and what about that you complicating the ability of Russian citizens to come to Lithuania to buy the real estate, and application for resident permits in Lithuania temporary not accepted, but how Russians try to avoid these restrictions? Because they are very tricky.
I wouldn't say that they try to avoid. I mean, we've got, I mean, it's not a big group of Russians that came after the beginning of the war. It's been quite a vocal people. I mean, that's quite known people, and you must probably know that one of them was attacked recently by two KGB agents, and his legs were broken, and all that story. So I mean, they quite famous. They have their own quite, I would say, closed society here. Not a big one again, but as far as I know, they have also their educational institutions and so on. So I mean, you do not see them too much here. I mean, like you see Ukrainians, you see Belarusians, but the Russians, they somehow keeping the low profile. I cannot really comment on how they're avoiding the regulations. I know that our state institutions are quite hard on them. So the ones who are arriving have a good reason to come and to apply for these documents. So in my point of view, that basically on the Russian side, they're kind of more or less okay. But as I said, I am not a big expert in this field, so I just will limit myself by stating that.
What are the most relevant concepts of the union of countries nowadays? Lublin Triangle, the Intermarium, or EU, or something else? What are the most suitable for nowadays?
Well, all of them are interesting, and all of them are basically have a right to exist. However, I'm not a big fan of creating a lot of forums. Intermarium, Lublin, these are good sub-organizations within bigger units. So in Europe, I see two units. That's NATO and European Union. That's the only two organizations that basically I would just kind of promote. However, inside of these, you could have this, as I said, sub-forums like Lublin Triangle, for example, and well, the first thing most probably is that the Ukraine needs to join EU and NATO and then be a part of it. And the second of that, then you already are inside. You need to coordinate your position. You have your lobbying with the countries that have a similar position as you do, and that naturally you would have this most probably Eastern European flank first of all. These organizations can be a very good tool for talking and preparing the common position to trading something with countries of the south, for example, or with Nordics, basically offering something, being the supporters of Ukrainian cause, and basically this is most probably would be a very good forms for us. But as I said, I see the future only in Europe, only for NATO and EU, and everything else. I would not think that they can replace that.